Welcome to the Create the Life You Want podcast, where we break down the journey of people just like you going from dream to ownership in business acquisitions, franchises, and startups. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames. Today's episode is brought to you ad-free by Guidant Financial. Guidant is America's leading company helping aspiring entrepreneurs use retirement funds to buy or start businesses. If you're committed to buying or starting a business, you can find out more about your funding options by going to www.guidantfinancial.com. That's Guidant financial.com. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I am Jeremy Ames, your host, CEO, and co-founder of Guidant Financial, and today, we are going to be interviewing another interesting business owner. Marinda Childers is here with me today. And Marinda used to be a nurse practitioner, and she left that to start her own yoga studio. And we're going to find out a little bit more about her story, including why she decided to go after a real estate / business play instead of just setting up a business. So, Marinda, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I am super curious to hear about what life looked like as a nurse practitioner and what the moment was where you said, I need to or want to do something different than this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I have been in the medical field for 20 years. I've been a nurse practitioner for 12 of those. And I guess it's just something that happened kind of both slowly and all at once. So, the sort of the climate of healthcare has changed over the years, especially with the internet and social media and things like that, and people just coming in um, with their own notions of how they want their healthcare to go without really having any medical knowledge. And then the other aspect was insurance becoming more and more difficult to get approvals for the treatments that we want to prescribe, or the surgeries, or the things that we need to do for these patients to treat them the best. And it was just a struggle on both ends that sort of just made me start feeling more and more burned out. And as a nurse practitioner, we have to recertify every 5 years. We have to provide, just a bunch of continuing education hours, and it's a little bit of a hassle. It's not horrible, but I recertified about 3 years ago, and I told my husband at that time, I said, I don't want to do this again in 5 years when it's due again. So he and I talked about sort of what my passions were and what I wanted to do. And I just kept coming back to yoga. I kept coming back to wanting to open my own studio here in our hometown. And so that was sort of the birth of the idea. And then I got certified as a yoga teacher last year. And then the next obstacle was, how am I going to fund this? How am I going to leave my job and my life, my steady income, and make this dream a reality? So quick Google search, and I found you guys.
I'm curious, though, to take a step back because 20 years as a nurse practitioner, that insurance thing resonates with me. It's painful. My son, at the beginning of this year, tore the meniscus in his knee. And we went back and forth with the insurance company for 2 months just to get him an MRI and then eventually to get him an approval for the surgery he wanted. Meanwhile, he's missing all of the baseball season that's happening. And then by the time we finally got the approval and into the doctor, they said, well, it's been long enough now. You should probably just wait a couple months and do some physical therapy and see if that helps. So he lost 5 months of a season. Maybe it's better because he didn't end up getting the surgery at the end of the day. But man, it feels like a part-time job managing that part.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of stuff I dealt with on a daily basis, and just became such a hassle, such a burnout. You go into the medical field wanting to help people, and you have a passion for it, and then what you end up doing is spending all your days on the phone and doing appeals with insurance companies. So it's not really the dreamy medical career that you thought it was going to be.
I was surprised to hear, though, that you only recently got certified. So help
hmm
connect the dots for us about how this went from an interest to, well, I'm all in.
Yeah. So I actually kind of started the process about I would say 2 or 3 years ago, around that time when I kinda had that epiphany that I didn't want to recertify again. And, I've done yoga for many years. It wasn't something that I just recently started. But I sort of dove in deeper to my practice, my own personal practice, and I just set my mind on making it become a daily thing and going deeper into it. And so when the time rolled around to get certified, it was kind of a no-brainer. So, yeah, I've only been a teacher for about a year, but it definitely feels like longer, I guess, just with my experience.
Yeah, and you're pretty new in this journey, right? So you
Mhm.
have not officially opened the doors of your studio yet, correct?
Correct. It took me a little while to find a physical location. The area where I live, either the rent at places is just exorbitantly high, and so I kind of shopped around for a while to find my physical location that I wanted to be in. So when the perfect place popped up, I was able to jump on it thanks to kind of having these funds in place already. So made life easier on that aspect.
Talk to us about a little bit about that decision because it's a separate decision to say, hey, I'm going to start a business from the I'm also going to move forward with owning the underlying real estate. So,
Mhm.
is this part of the overall strategy from the get go?
No, I actually started out the process thinking that I was going to lease a space. And then when I saw how high the rent was everywhere, I just started looking into could I purchase my own place? And that led me down a whole different road. But I ended up finding this absolutely adorable little 100-year-old farmhouse right in my hometown. And it was right off the town square. And when it popped up on the market, I just knew it just felt right. So that was kind of the goal of owning a place, was that yeah, I'm still paying something every month for it, but at the end of the day, it's mine. It's not somebody else's that I'm leasing from.
Yeah, well, I want to point out that this is actually a brilliant strategy for people who are going to bring retirement funds to invest in a business because businesses always have some amount of underlying risk. You're significantly mitigating that by owning your own real estate, meaning even if it turns out you get into the yoga studio and you do it for a couple years and it's not quite what you're expecting, you've still got the underlying real estate there that has value.
Yeah, definitely. That was a huge selling point for me in purchasing my own place. It felt more like an investment than a risk, and so that, like you said, it definitely mitigated the risk of opening my own business, because at the end of the day, I can still sell it if I wanted or needed to.
Yeah. Ask you this, Marinda, because I can't really tell from your story, but do you feel like moving towards business ownership was you running towards something or away from something?
Oh no, definitely running towards something. I would say for a long time, I've wanted to be my own boss and have my own business. It just wasn't clear what I wanted to do yet. And so I knew I wanted to be my own boss for a very long time. So I wouldn't say it was necessarily me like escaping or running away from healthcare. More so, it was just the time was right. I was feeling the burnout and I'd been wanting to do this for a long time. So the, everything just sort of fell in place when the idea came to mind of doing yoga.
Yeah. So I read a survey not long ago. Gallup did a survey in 2023, and they asked people about whether they wanted to be their own boss or to be an employee. And 62% of people said they wanted to be their own boss, which is a crazy high number. That's about 130 million people in the adult US working population. And obviously, a very small percentage of those people end up moving forward. So help us understand, Marina, how did you get that clarity? How did you find the thing where you finally said, ah, that's it. I'm ready now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not real sure how it all kind of came to me, other than I guess I was just leaning more and more on my yoga practice to deal with the everyday stress of my job. And the more I did it, the more I loved it. And the more I realized that there wasn't anything like that around this area where I live. So I guess it was just the combination of kind of combining my passion with filling a need that was in my hometown, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So were you doing your own practice in your home, or were you having to travel somewhere to have more of a?
Yeah, I've just been practicing in my own home. I have a Peloton, and in Peloton they have not only like the cycling classes and things like that, but they have a bunch of yoga classes. And so I would just do it in my own living room. My schedule, my I guess my former schedule as a nurse practitioner, my hours were all over the place, and I would be either leaving the house at 5 a.m. and coming home at 7 or 8 p.m. And just kind of weird hours. And so to go to a typical gym was just sort of not in the cards for me. Plus, my husband and I have 4 kids, and with their crazy schedules, it just wasn't in the cards for me to go to a gym. So I've always really worked out in my own home.
And it sounds like part of that is that there's nothing like this in your current town, which means it
Mhm.
might be a small town. So did you do any sort of analysis or digging into the size of your market and what the opportunity might be?
Yeah, I did a little bit. So after I actually founded my business, I did sort of just like a little post on Facebook about it. Social media, it's everywhere. So I did a post on Facebook, like it's kind of my hometown's Facebook chat page. And I said, hey, here's who I am. This is my idea to bring the studio to town. What do you guys think? And the response was overwhelming. I mean, less than 24 hours, I think I had like 500 responses from people saying, absolutely, bring it here. We've been wanting this forever. Go for it. So it was very encouraging, and it was just the little final thing that I needed to confirm that this was the right thing to do.
Miranda, that's both simple and brilliant. Really? Because you
Yeah.
didn't just say, "Hey, I've got this passion for yoga. I'm gonna make this jump because I'm not enjoying my job and go do this thing." You thought, "How could I figure out if this is going to resonate here?" And so you went to that Facebook community. Presumably now you have 500-ish people that you can continue to message and talk to as you gear up to open, right?
Yeah, definitely. And people have just been messaging me left and right, asking when it's opening and how my renovations are going. And so it's definitely been just that little nugget of encouragement along the way to see those messages every day pop in that people are still interested and they still want to do it. So it's been overwhelmingly positive. I've been very pleased.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were explaining that, I was thinking of another client that I talked to maybe a year ago, and he had opened a stretch studio
Hmm.
in the midst of COVID.
Oh boy.
And he ran into all sorts of delays with when they could be open. And so he ended up running these sort of open air things that he would do in a park, that he would do in
Hmm.
a parking lot, where he would bring people in and get to meet them and take them through the stretching piece. So he did some really interesting things to build some customer momentum even before his physical location was ready to open. Are you contemplating anything like that as you near this launch date?
Yeah, that's what I've actually done. Really when the weather was better, so back in the fall, right after I started the business, and then I was just about to kind of restart it for a couple of weeks before my grand opening. But yeah, I've basically just done sort of outdoor sessions and things like that without having a physical space right now. And really, weather is the hardest part about that because it's so unpredictable, and you just never know. I mean, you might have a bunch of interest in it and then it rains that day. And then the next time you schedule it, then those people can't come to that one. So it was a bit of a frustration trying to do open air stuff, but I'm just really glad that I'm going to have a a covered area to do it now in a few weeks. So that's going to be a game changer.
Because you are someone who went to school, presumably for quite a bit of time, to become
Mhm.
a nurse practitioner. Did anyone try and talk you out of this? And if so, how did you respond?
Yeah. So a lot of my coworkers obviously were sad to see me go, but I think they understood. They understood at the core that I've had this passion for a while, and I had been talking about it for a long time, and so everybody was just really excited for me. Um, my mom was a little disappointed that I was sort of putting this aside, just because, she was sort of there all along the way with me going through nursing school and then getting my master's degree and all of that. But she's come around. She sees the space now and she sees the interest, and so she's on board. She's excited about it now.
Okay, so tell us about the space. This wasn't originally in the plan, but as you started looking for real estate, sounded like you thought, well, this is expensive. Maybe I should just make this jump. Was that a financial decision, an emotional decision? Were you pursuing both paths and you just happened to come across the thing that you thought was perfect?
It was definitely more of a financial decision, just because of the amount it was going to take to lease a space every month. And not only that, maybe it's just a geographical thing. I'm not sure, but in my area, the biggest town next to me is Columbus, Georgia, which takes about 20 minutes to get there from where I live. I live in a smaller town, Hamilton, Georgia. But in Columbus, the I guess the property owners really want a 10-year lease. And so it was just, I could not commit to it. I just kept getting cold feet with the amount that it was going to be each month and then committing to that amount for 10 years. I couldn't commit to it. And so that was when my realtor said, well, let's start looking for places that you could buy, and maybe there's a house, maybe there's something that we can renovate. And so we just kind of watched it for a while. And when this one popped up, it definitely felt right, as far as like a gut instinct goes. It felt like the right space. It feels like a healing place. And the great news is it's 5 minutes from my door. So it's not going to take as long to commute there each day.
Well, I'm curious how the numbers compare when you looked at what you were going to have to pay on a lease versus how things are going to shake out financially for you to buy. Help us understand that analysis, what you did.
Yeah, so it's gonna be about $3,500 less per month to own my place as opposed to leasing my place. So it's pretty significant.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the money that you brought in, is that primarily going to renovations on the place, or primarily did it go to the down payment on purchasing the real estate? How did that all work out?
Mostly the renovations because it's a 100-year-old house. It needed a lot of big stuff done to it. So it needs electrical work and a new roof. And there was not huge foundation issues, but it definitely needed a little bit of foundation work. So the biggest part of my budget was going to renovations.
Walk us through that process. That sounds kind of fun, actually, to be
Oh,
taking
it's so
this
fun.
old residential home and reimagining it as this space that you want to conduct your business in. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, it is really fun. So I have a friend that she's actually a nurse too, but does that just part time. And her husband own their own contracting company. And so when I was kind of going through all this process of like, should I get this house? And I talked to her, and she and I kind of came up with the plan that they would do my renovations. And it's been very fun to be able to be creative and to make this place my own stamp on it. I would say the biggest hurdle was it was zoned as a residential home, even though it's right on the town square. And so I had to go to several town hall meetings and present the case and get this place rezoned for commercial use. So that was probably the scariest part of all of it, was just getting in front of the town and speaking about what my plans were. And then other people had the opportunity to come up there and say that they didn't want me there, or that they didn't like the idea, or whatever the case may be. They could come up there and say whatever they wanted to. Now, fortunately, that didn't happen. Everybody was very supportive. So it ended up not being as scary as I thought it would be. But that was the biggest part, was just rezoning.
Yeah, and did you commit to purchasing the property before the rezoning? Was this a leap of faith that you took that you'd be able to talk the city into doing it?
So I was able to get a really long due diligence period. It was like 3 months due diligence period, so that I could get it rezoned before committing to purchasing it. So we worked with the sellers, and they were really understanding about it, and basically just allowed me to have this extended due diligence period so that I could go through those town hall meetings and make sure that it would be zoned properly before I committed to it.
You have a really smart real estate agent you're working
Yeah,
with.
I do. It's my brother-in-law. So, this is all like kind of like one big happy family process here.
Yeah, well, it's good when you have in-laws that you like and they're helpful.
Uh-huh, absolutely.
Well, Miranda, a lot of the people that most of the people that I interview are ones who are already just knee to chest deep in the business. And it sounds like you're at the very early stages of this. So instead of asking you about the mistakes you've made and the things you've learned, I want to understand what are you most nervous about? Like, this is about to get real, real fast.
Yeah, it is. I guess I'm just most nervous about supporting myself, going from this steady paycheck that I've had for so long to being self-reliant. It's um it's definitely the most scary part.
Okay. And have you done the math? Have you figured out this is what I need, where I need to get in order for this to meet that threshold?
Yes, I have. I've done a million calculations on, how many members I need and how many, people need to drop in for classes and things like that. And fortunately, because my overhead's fairly low in terms of not having to lease from somebody for a crazy amount of money. So fortunately, if I have about 25 to 30 people coming to classes a day, I should be fine. So
Okay.
that's reassuring, I guess.
That doesn't seem like a hard number when you've got 500 people that are already beating down your door telling you to bring this thing there.
Right, exactly, exactly.
So help me understand how you're thinking about the long run. It would occur to me that one of the things that's challenging about something like a yoga business, like what you're talking about, is that you are going to be the primary person both running the business and delivering the service. So,
Correct.
do you see that changing over time? Do you plan to ever take a vacation? How do you think about that part of your future?
Yes, I would definitely love to take some vacations at some point in my life again. So I've hired two other instructors. They're going to work part time. And I guess just as things grow and they get a community of followers that come to their classes and things like that, my hope is that I can fill up a week with them on the schedule and be able to take some vacations and have some me time again once things are up and running. I fully anticipate having about a year of really kind of digging down deep and putting my nose to the grindstone and putting in the long hours and everything. But my hope is that things really just they grow and become more consistent, and we have regular clients that come in, and that I can step back a little bit and um, take vacations with the family and do things like that again.
Yeah, it was really smart that you're already starting with a couple of part time people because it at least is giving you some space to A, carve out time to work on the business, and B, make sure that you have the kind of robust schedule that's going to cater to different people who have different life circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. And, everybody has their own different style when it comes to teaching. And so, I'm not naive to think that everybody's going to love my style. So I'm glad to have a couple different people who they have different experiences with it and have different likes and dislikes when it comes to styles of teaching. So we'll have that variety to offer people.
Okay. And is the long term goal here that you're building more of a lifestyle business, or is this something where you're saying, hey, I want to get this up and functioning, but I might do multiple units at some point?
That's a good question. I am just not sure. I'm sort of leaving it um, open at this point. Obviously, I want this location to be successful. If it becomes something, if we sort of outgrow the space or the property or something like that, or if there is an opening somewhere else that I could have a second location, that's always an option. I kind of like just the idea of kind of keeping it simple though. If I have this one spot and it provides for my family and for my community, then I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that. You know, I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to provide for my family and do good things for people around me.
Yeah. Is this something where you're already really connected into your community, or is there also some aspect of this that you see getting you more connected into the local scene of who's there? I mean, you've already been to the city hall meeting. So
Right, exactly. No, I've definitely met way more people in the community just during this process of getting this up and running than I had in the years that we've lived here. So I'm excited to continue to know more people in the community, know more of the businesses, sort of become a household name. I think that's going to be really, really fun for me.
right. And what does your husband think about this whole transition? You mentioned him earlier. He's
Yeah,
obviously some level of a co-conspirator to this decision to move forward.
he is. He's been a huge support. He's also a nurse practitioner, so he fully understood where I was coming from with it, and in some ways feels the same, but just hasn't found his unique passion yet to step away from it. But yeah, he's been a huge supporter. He's sort of my go-to handyman. So for smaller things that we need fixed, and for certain little projects in my house, we're doing those together. And he's also my landscaper. So he's going to be doing all the landscaping.
He's got his hard labor tasks then.
He has his honey-do list for sure.
Well, Miranda, maybe my last question for you, and I'm curious to hear how you're going to answer this, given that you're only in the early stages of this. But if someone's listening and thinking about becoming an owner, what do you think they should do next?
Like for any type of business, or like for like yoga in particular?
Sure. Someone's listening, or someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a business owner. I want to do what you did, maybe not with a yoga studio, but with something else."
Make sure that they are in it for the right reasons. That's number one. If you get into something just purely for the money aspect of it, I think you're always going to be unhappy. So make sure it's following whatever your highest purpose is in life. And for me, it's always been to help people, and to make people feel good and better. And so this tracks along with that higher purpose I have for my life. So picking something that is in their true nature and helps them achieve their highest purpose in life, would be my number one, I guess, tidbit of information that I would give to somebody.
Well, Miranda, I really want to thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit about your journey. We're going to have to put you on the calendar to check back in with you in a year or two, because then I'm sure you'll have lots of fun horror stories and excitement to share with us about all the things that are going well and all the challenges you had to deal with that you didn't expect.
Absolutely, yeah. Put me down. I'll definitely come back on your show.
Great. Well, we wish you the best of luck. If anyone's interested in finding out more about your studio, where would they look? Where would they go?
Yeah, they can see, my website is studio-shiva, SHIVA.com. And then I'm also on social media. On Instagram, it's Shiva Yoga Wellness Studio. And then on Facebook, Shiva Yoga Wellness.
Well, Miranda, thanks again for your time. We wish you the best of luck as you open here in a few weeks, and very excited for you and very excited for your town of Hamilton, Georgia. This is a cool new thing being brought there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Create the Life You Want podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to future episodes by clicking the subscribe button, you know where. If you're an aspiring business owner, you may also want to subscribe to the Create the Life You Want newsletter for more inspiration and tips delivered to your inbox every week. You can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my personal website, jeremyames.com. If you've already decided you want to start or buy a business, consider exploring your financing options by heading to our sponsor's website at www.guidantfinancial.com. That's GUIDANT financial.com. See you in the next episode.